Good afternoon, or whatever time it is your way, America. Good afternoon, Maine, planet Earth. I'm Dana the Angry Citizen. I'm coming to you today on Friday, July 26th, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And today we're going to talk about one of the most important things we can talk about in America, which is election integrity. And I think that it's obvious to most people right now that our elections are not secure. We were told that Joe Biden got 84 million votes in the last election. That is almost insulting. It really kind of is insulting to we the people to suggest that. It's ludicrous. It couldn't possibly have happened. The man's thoroughly unlikable. He's a scumbag. He's a plagiarizer. He's a child groper and sniffer. He said some of the most heinous things I can imagine a candidate saying. This is a man who said, if you ain't voting for me, you ain't black. Now, I know a few black people who do not like him at all and would never vote for him. And I can assure you, having seen them with my own eyes, that Joe, yes, they are actually black. They're not pretending. So election integrity is a difficult subject because a lot of people don't understand how our election system works. And that's important. It's critical to understand. We have people showing up at all these polling stations. We cast our votes. They get counted. And those results are then tallied and sent upstream to be reconciled. And if we are not assured of the integrity of that system, then it can be stolen. A big source of this is mail-in ballots. And so if you have a ballot just arriving in the mail, there's no identifier, no way to know where it's coming from, or no system to validate where it's coming from, then anyone who can print one or obtain one somehow can simply mail it in. And there it is. Now it's a ballot, and now it's supposedly being counted as valid. And I think, as I stated yesterday, that the only people that are not interested in election integrity or do not desire to have election integrity are people that want to cheat. Cheaters are the ones who don't want things counted. They don't want accountability. They don't want transparency. They want to hide. They want to not be held accountable for their statements and their claims, because that's how you cheat. The rest of us should want this, and we should be speaking out with one loud, deafening voice to these idiots in Congress and let them know that we demand accountability, and we demand that the results be tallied correctly and accounted for. And if they can't be, then certain people have to be charged with crimes. They need to be, and they need to go to jail. So my first guest today is a man who's been working on this subject rather aggressively down in Pennsylvania. And I met him through a friend, my good friend, Ohio Brett. God bless you, Ohio Brett, out there. He was just here for our third annual Maine Freedom Rally, so I just saw him off to his next destinations just a few days ago. We had a modest turnout, but it was a great event. Has some powerful speakers, including Ohio Brett, my buddy John Linehan, Nurse Aaron, Scott Shara, and it was really a great event. We had a marvelous time, even though it wasn't necessarily as large as I would like. But we're now, as my friend Brett continues to say, only 12 short months away from the fourth annual Maine Freedom Rally, which I will be, let's say, bumping up the volume a bit on it, and you'll be hearing more about that. So before we get started, my wonderful sponsor is the Flame USA. The Flame USA is a newspaper. It's a printed paper, but you can get a digital copy as well. And these two ladies, my amazing friends and sisters and allies, Anna and Nicole, who are the ladies that are virtually running the show there at the Flame and making sure this publication is turned out and is available, just do a fantastic job. And you can subscribe to the Flame, and I would strongly urge that everyone in America should be doing this, because getting a copy of this, because it's uncensored speech, and you don't have to agree with what's being said. You disagree all day, and read it, throw it away if you want, put it on your birdcage. But no one's coming in and telling them what they're allowed to say. And think about the premise of what these folks are telling you. The folks that are telling you that you're not allowed to see certain information are telling you this. They're saying you are too stupid to know truth from fiction. Therefore, they're going to step in as the trusted source, and they are going to cut off any comments or words or videos or things that they claim aren't true to protect you from falling for it. Because if you fall for these lies, which you will, because you are too stupid to know truth from fiction, they are going to have some catastrophic consequence going to happen to you because you're too stupid to know the truth from fiction. And then you are going to suffer greatly. So they're protecting you. They're helping you by censoring information. Well, we all know that's false. They just don't want the truth to come out, because the truth is the sword of God, and it will take down tyrants and root out corruption. And that's what we, the people, need to be seeking out. And that's why we're here. So the segment I'm doing today is called Patriots United. And there's a lot of us out there, folks. And sometimes we fight among ourselves, but a lot of us aren't perfect, me included. But we're fighting for our liberty. We're fighting for truth. We're fighting for the constitutional republic that we all love. Be careful when people keep talking about our democracy. You'll notice that's on the news a lot. Democracy, democracy, democracy. Democracy is a good term where it applies to either democratic type of environment, government, or a tyrannical government. Those are basically your two choices. But we live in a constitutional republic. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land. All laws that are repugnant to it are null and void, and you need to learn that. Everyone in America needs to be able to say that verbatim every time. So, all right. So without further ado, my first guest is a man who goes by the moniker of Hillbilly, which he bears proudly. I know him as Jon Marietta. He lives in Fayette County, Pennsylvania. He's introduced me through Ohio Brett, and was immediately we were bonded and were like-minded on our quest, which is to see accountability and transparency restored in our government, specifically in the area of election fraud. So again, his name is Jon Marietta, but we know him as Hillbilly Jon. Jon, how you doing today, friend?
How are you today?
Doing well, thanks.
Can you hear me?
I hear you. You're at the fair.
We good?
Yeah, you're at the fair.
I'm
still,
sorry.
Huh? So it looks like you're at the fair.
I am because I'll be here till about 9 o'clock. Yeah, because I'm trying to promote Donald Trump. I'm trying to tell people that about this election integrity deal. We've got a lot of things happening here in Fayette County. We're overturning and showing people we're showing the corruption to the light of day, and that's what I'm about.
Amen. Well done. And
I hope you can hear me good. I hope you.
We hear you.
Go ahead.
Poor Jon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you fine, and we appreciate what you're doing. Appreciate your hard work.
I did everything I could today. I did everything I could today to make this happen.
No worries.
I actually ended up with a new phone and a Wi-Fi hotspot, so to get this thing to make this happen for me and you.
So for those who are interested, you can find Jon at the Hillbilly Jon radio show. He's got a Facebook page, his own page, Jon Marietta. There's the Jon Marietta for Fayette County, Pennsylvania Facebook page. He broadcasts on, it was a WMBS, if I'm remembering correctly, Jon.
Yes.
Radio. Okay, so they have a Facebook page, and he live streams from there. And I've done a few with him, and you can check him out usually Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock. Keep up with the Facebook page, check the post there, and you'll see that posted. So be sure to follow him, especially if you're in Pennsylvania. So Jon, we really appreciate what you're doing there, and we're having a little we're getting like some noise back, and I know there's a delay, so I'm gonna bring you out, and I'm gonna go ahead and bring Greg in.
Okay, go ahead. That'll be fine.
I don't know if you heard me. I think you heard me. Okay. So hang there with us, Jon, for the time being. So my next guest was introduced to me by Jon, and he is absolutely at the forefront of this effort in Pennsylvania. And honestly, I don't understand why everyone in Pennsylvania isn't backing this guy, because, again, unless you want election fraud, why would you not support the people that are fighting for election integrity? And this guy is absolutely doing a bang-up job. I'm thrilled to have met him. We've done a podcast or two together with Jon, and I'm going to refer you to his website. I'm going to bring him on right now. His name is Greg Stenstrom. Greg, thanks for joining me.
Hey, good to be here. How's my sound?
You, my friend? Yeah, your sound is perfect. Yeah. So
today's T-shirt day. It's Friday, so
every day's T-shirt for me.
Yeah.
I have more T-shirts than any man should have, and people keep giving them to me. I don't know. It's this weird thing where everywhere I go, people are giving me T-shirts, and I have literally so many now I can't even fit them in all my drawers. I got a box of them in my closet. I should have some made for the angry citizen, huh?
Yeah, sure.
So, Greg, take us back to when you first started your effort that you're making now. And at some point, you decided that you've had enough of this shenanigans. You were going to get involved. You're going to do something. And I know we're way ahead of that now, but my audience may not know. So I want to just give us kind of a very brief overview of how did you start your quest for election integrity?
Well, I was actually. Have we had Leah Hoops on the show at all? I don't think we've had her on yet. Maybe Hillbilly, but
we'll have to ask John. He's having a little trouble hearing us, but he's watching. He's in the back room. Well, and maybe he'll give us a thumbs up. John, he asked you, did you have Leah Hoops on? He's giving you a thumbs up.
He has. Okay. I thought she'd been on a few times. I'm a former naval officer, a Naval Academy grad, 22 years active in reserve. And I had commanding and executive officer roles in special warfare, Navy diving, spec ops, a surface warfare officer. And in my civilian career, I'm an expert in fraud, forensics, security. I dealt mainly with financial institutions, commercial institutions, and I recovered over $2 billion in funds from corruption, primarily in government, but also in civilian world. So Leah Hoops was a Bethel Township committee woman for the Republican Party here in Delaware County. Delaware County is just southeast of Philadelphia, just a little bit of a drive south. And we're tucked in. We're about 20 minutes from the border of Delaware, the state of Delaware, and about 30 minutes north of the border of Maryland, tucked in the corner. So she had asked a mutual friend to recommend someone who was an expert in fraud who could help her in the elections prior to the 2020 election. And we started talking in April of 2020, maybe a little earlier. And I'm going to have to say I was more reluctant. I've been involved in a number of investigations and frauds that fraud investigations that resulted in the imprisonment and incarceration of multiple public officials, the resignation of public officials, senior public officials, congressmen, U.S. senators. Sheriff of Philadelphia, I think, is still in prison, federal prison. But I've been involved in a number of these things, and whenever you deal with investigating public corruption, you take a beating. You know, it's a high personal cost. So I said to Leah Hoops, I said, I know they're gonna cheat in this election, and I'm going to say I was reluctant up until November 3rd when I went into the election. By November 5th, we had witnessed about 170,000 to 200,000 fraudulent ballots be processed by November 5th. Went in as, just to kind of bring people ahead on November 7th because of my experience with fraud, government fraud and municipal fraud. Had a few phone numbers in my Rolodex, and I called U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania, Bill McSwain. And I said, hey, Bill, just have a few machines here. If we do forensics on, we can put this whole thing to bed on the massive election fraud. I said, I got 170 to 200,000 fraudulent mail-in and election ballots. I watched how they had done it. We found 70,000 unopened mail-in ballots that hadn't been processed 2 days after the election. They processed 130,000 fake mail-in ballots, and they added another 50,000 electronic ballots. And we watched them do this.
Wow.
So, and we have it all on video. You can go to www.patriot.online, go to election resources, and we've got videos of election officials admitting to the fraud, admitting to fabricating the entire vote. And pretty much thought we had it sewn up. Called Bill McSwain, U.S. Attorney for Pennsylvania. He said, let me get right back to you, Greg. About a half an hour later, he called back and he said, I can't help you. And I forwarded him a declaration, a 26-page declaration with photos, very, very well. It was a charge sheet, which I've done for investigations before. And I said, well, here's the charges. This is the criminal charges. This is what people have done. I need you to do something with it. He forwarded up the chain of command. What we found out later from FOIA requests, this is Saturday after the election, was that declaration went through the entire U.S. upper echelons of the U.S. government within about 2 hours.
Wow.
Went through the DOJ, the Inspector General, the FBI, CIA, NSA, National Security Council, 94 U.S. attorneys. You take, it was pretty. The CC list on the FOIA request was extensive. So what happened over the next 2 days is I wasn't the only one, by the way. I think mine was the most concise. It was used in Paxton, Texas Attorney General Paxton's Texas versus Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. It was one of the first exhibits he used. It was used in multiple lawsuits throughout the country as an exhibit of massive election fraud. And so Barr was sitting there looking at this with the senior people in the government. We called the council, which I don't know if we'll have time to get to today. And they said, what are we going to do with this? We've got allegations from, Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Wisconsin of massive election fraud. So what they did is they crafted over the next 2 days. And again, it's fascinating to read the FOIAs as they crafted this narrative. They crafted a narrative that William Barr released on Monday at about 5 p.m. on Monday, the 9th of November. And he said, there's no evidence of quote unquote widespread election fraud.
Wow.
Widespread election fraud. So that's been bringing its ugly head up in just the past 2 days. It's biting them in the butt just the past 2 days, and it bit them in the butt the last few years. But their narrative was, let's just take whatever we find out and turn it over to the state Pennsylvania, the state attorney generals, and we'll let them investigate it. And the DOJ will investigate it maybe later, maybe.
Right.
So the reason it was a false narrative is there's 3,143 counties in the United States, 3,143 in 50 states. Everyone knows what a swing state is. But it only takes about 2 to 3 dozen, but 20 counties in these key pivot states, swing states, to change the outcome of a national election. Essentially, it's a math problem. And the Democrats and the Republicans are well aware of this math problem. So they only had to target 20 counties. So the counties they targeted in Pennsylvania were Philadelphia, Delaware County, and Allegheny County, which was Pittsburgh. In Michigan, they targeted Antrim and Wayne County. In Arizona, they targeted Maricopa County and Pima County, primarily Maricopa County. And then in Georgia, they targeted Fulton County and DeKalb County. I'm not going to keep going on, but those counties should all ring a bell to most people watching the show, which is those were the key counties where most of the election fraud was committed in these centralized counting centers that allowed them to steal the entire 2020 election. So the narrative that William Barr and the DOJ and the Inspector General and the FBI came up with was there was no widespread election fraud was a lie and crafted by lawyers to mask the fact that it doesn't take very much election fraud to change an election. To put that in further perspective, President Trump in 2016 and in 2020 won about, I think it was 27, don't quote me on the number, about 2,700 counties out of those 3,143, which means Biden and Hillary won just about 400, a little less, a little more. So do the math on that. Trump won 2,700 counties. They only won a little over 400, a little less than 400. And somehow in the 2,700 counties, Trump got 80 million votes. And with Biden, and in the 400 counties that Biden, quote unquote, won or stole votes in, he got 81 million votes just in those 400 counties. And what really screwed them up in 2016 was in the Hillary election was at the time they could swing an election by about 8%, 10% max. A 4% or 6% swing, they could easily change the direction in either direction and pick whatever candidate they want. But in 2016, in the 2,700 counties that Trump won, the problem was he won by 68% to 96% of the vote. It was off the charts. And what happened was they just couldn't cheat enough to put Hillary over the top. And it's important to remember the numbers there. If everyone remembers, they said, well, Hillary won the majority of the vote with 65 million votes, which was complete crap. And they said Trump only won 61 million votes. But between the two of them, there were a little less than 130 million votes. In the 2012 election with Obama and Mitt Romney, that was even less. It was less than 100, and I think it was 118 million votes. And they had results like Obama winning in Philadelphia 69 precincts with 120 to 140% of the vote being all for Obama without a single vote for Mitt Romney. And still Obama barely carried Philadelphia. So they cheated in 2012. They cheated in 2016. They just didn't cheat enough. And then in 2020, I already just said it was less than 130 million people voted in Hillary and Trump. And then with Biden, they had to steal so many votes. They ended up with 162 million votes out of 320 million total citizens. They say, well, 162 million voted, 81 million people voted for Biden. If anybody will buy that, or anybody thinks that's true, at this point, I don't have the patience for them.
I agree. It's ludicrous.
So,
and it's like
Lee
people telling you the moon is square.
Yeah.
Like, look at the sky. It's not square. It's round, man.
So we went to, I testified with Leah in Gettysburg with the Pennsylvania Senate. And, we came out and we said, hey, there's evidence of massive election fraud, which they ignored. We went down and we worked with Sidney Powell's group and Rudy Giuliani, Phil Klein, Amistad. We worked with everybody, and we brought everything down to them. We said, hey, we've got the evidence of massive election fraud. All you have to do is act on it. And no one did. So Lee and I filed a suit, and our first suit in December, first week of December. And for that suit, we were, they never heard, the judge refused to hear the suit, called us all kinds of horrible names, fined us and sanctioned us $50,000 apiece for even presenting the suit. They tried to disbar the attorney, and we said, well, this isn't working. I've been sued 6 times and sanctioned 7 times for millions of dollars because of this election. I had a very, very good business, which is now gone, and paid a pretty heavy price here. And Leah has too, for doing these election lawsuits against corrupt judges and corrupt attorneys and corrupt officials, elected officials, a corrupt DOJ. We have uncovered a tremendous amount of corruption. So now come around about December, January, because I told you I had a lot of experience in fraud, and I said one thing that's common in all government corruption and all large corporate government corruption, is they always destroy the evidence. Always, right. always they destroy the evidence. So Lee and I talked, and we at this point we had a whistleblower on the inside. We were working with Project Veritas at that point. So she was wired up with a hat cam, a button cam, a purse cam, a coffee cup cam, and multiple microphones. She's like an IMAX machine. And she was inside of the Delaware County government here, and Delaware County Election Center and Delaware County counting centers, the voting machine warehouse government center. So she was all over those locations. So Lee and I said, all we have to do is submit right to knows and demands for election records, and they'll just destroy them. She'll get them on tape. Well, they didn't disappoint. We have hours and hours of videos of them destroying all the election records, return sheets, the paper receipts from the machines, ballots, admitting on video. And these are attorneys. These aren't like low-level people. This is attorneys and senior election officials saying they had to fabricate the entire vote because they just said they had to make the whole thing up. Couldn't be reconciled. 428 precincts in Delaware County, and 220 of the precinct return sheets, which show the results, gone. They destroyed them. And then they made up the other 200. They just made them up. So we have this all on video, all on tape. Filed another lawsuit that sat there. That is sitting in the Commonwealth Court of Pennsylvania for over, now we're at about 1,100 days. And they're finally going to hear the case in September. They tried to quash it 6 times, and we fought through every time. Then they tried to stop a public hearing. We fought that. But but we fought them tooth and nail, and it's going to finally be heard in September.
Good.
And that's even tentative as well. But we have the hard evidence. We were sued along with President Trump. President Trump was our co-defendant, Rudy Giuliani, several other people. Lee and I were sued. And we ended up in the Philadelphia courts pretty much alone, representing ourselves.
Wow.
President Trump was pretty busy with his other indictments. Rudy Giuliani took a powder. They gave a default judgment for him for $1 million. So he had a default judgment against him. President Trump, a couple of times, the lawyers basically entered a request to delay because he was fighting his other criminal charges. So Lee and I submitted about 15,000 pages of filings that we wrote. And we also filed the book that we wrote, The Parallel Election. And then we did testimony. And what we did is we prevailed on the truth as a complete defense. In a defamation suit, if everything you say is the truth, which we said there was massive election fraud, and every single person we had named, the 38 people we named in our lawsuit, we said, hey, we stand by our words. We have the evidence. Let's go.
Good for you. So
we were offered a settlement in January of this year, 3 years after the election, roughly. And they said, well, we'll let you and Leah go, and we'll keep Trump and Giuliani. And we said, no dice. Let's go to trial. We're ready to beat your brains out. We can prove you did everything you said you did. Let's have a jury hear it. So they dropped the case. They discontinued the case. But then we went back to the judge and we said, listen, these liars that have been basically coming after all of us for the last 3 years, they don't just get to go scot-free. They lied, and tried to basically use lawfare against us. So we said we want a finding on whether these people were credible, and we want them disbarred. The judge entered an order, said they were not credible, and that they violated the laws of civil procedure, rules of civil procedure, and the rules of professional conduct. And he said that the case was against us was basically frivolous. And we did prove everything we said.
Good.
So where I am, and I don't know where we are. We're at the 27-minute
Keep running, going. Got plenty of time. I'm right with you.
Where we are is it's now a matter of public and judicial record, with evidence entered into the evidentiary base in multiple courts that there was massive election fraud. We can prove it. We put it out to everyone we could. And during our investigation, we got FOIA's, Freedom of Information Act, Right to Know Acts in Pennsylvania. We used the power of subpoena because we were sued so many times. They thought that would bother us, and we were like, that's great. It gives us the power of the subpoena and discovery, which we use to our great advantage.
Good.
And we can we have proven beyond any reasonable doubt, and it's been undisputed, irrefuted, that there was massive election fraud in the 2020 election. Lee and I wrote a book called The Parallel Election, which is available at parallelelection.com. It's also available on Amazon. It's a bestseller. Most people won't know that. New York Times would never say it. It's a best-selling book, sold worldwide heavily. And that was, we released that in August of 2022, and it's still selling at a brisk clip. We get orders in every day, and
great.
The book is still selling and in high demand. So we wrote a book with all the evidence in it. It's pretty blunt. It's we wrote it. It's not so much a whodunit, but we wrote it very factually, but we wrote it in as entertaining a way as we could to present it. We've gotten good reviews on it. We also did a few documentaries, which again we posted and got very little airplay. They've been suppressed by Facebook and Google and Yahoo. And everyone is they've done a really good job at censoring it.
Yes.
But two things we did was, and I'm just rattling the stuff out quick because I want people to know that there was massive election fraud, that we do have the proof that we were co-defendants with Trump. So during the course of our investigation in July 4th of last year, 1 year ago, I work with some professional investigators, people who work within the federal government who are professional investigators. And we assembled a charge sheet, which basically was a criminal referral that was sent to the House Judiciary Committee and Jim Jordan, on July 4th of last year with detailed criminal charges with evidence.
Good.
Highly documented, referenced, and we made serious criminal charges against the Inspector General of the United States, U.S. Attorney General Barr, Rosen. We went after Ray, the FBI, and then various people within the upper echelons of the government, which we had found had collaborated and colluded in conducting a coup. And we didn't mince words. We said this was a coup d'etat. It's very, very clear that it was a coup d'etat.
Absolutely.
Any investigations were thwarted and obstructed by these, and there was, we could show the collusion, and we did. So we gave that to Jordan over a year ago. We did 4 follow-ups by emails. We did phone calls. His entire staff, we know that the entire staff of the judiciary is very well informed of this. There were 3 congressmen and several of Jim Jordan's friends, including congressmen on the Judiciary Committee, who went into Jordan with this report and was banging on his desk. So, what are you doing about this? This isn't some wacky citizen. This is a professional investigator, U.S. naval officer. He's got pictures, video, these books. Yep. I mean, these guys are nailed. You can stop this tomorrow. Jim Jordan could have stopped this over a year ago. The indictments against Trump, all the BS about no election fraud. It could have stopped the upcoming election fraud. Jim Jordan could have done that. But I think in the absence of an answer, no answer is an answer. And I think he's securing his position as Speaker of the House for 2025, in part using that as leverage, saying, hey, we got the power to stop all this. I'll make a deal with you and I'll be Speaker in 2025 if I ignore this. And at first we didn't, everyone thinks Jim Jordan's a good guy, and I was hoping that he was a good guy, but now we're trying to shame him and embarrass him into responding to why he hasn't addressed these criminal charges, even though his fellow congressmen have been banging on his desk, and some of his best friends, who copied me, by the way, on text to him, saying, what are you doing about this? You've got to address it. Nothing. About 2 months ago, we submitted criminal charges against Josh Shapiro, governor of Pennsylvania. Criminal charges. I'm talking felonies for obstruction of investigations, retaliation, and intimidation and harassment of witnesses, including myself and Leah. They sent FBI agents and Pennsylvania special agents armed to our houses to intimidate us. There's been much other retaliation, intimidation, but Shapiro's beside himself with all of this because we got him red-handed. We've got the DAs in the district attorneys in Delaware County, Montgomery County, and Philadelphia County. We've got them red-handed, specifically Jack Stolzheimer, the DA in Delaware. He said he conducted an investigation and that we were debunked, and he never conducted an investigation. He lied, and we've got that. His own investigative agents who were interviewed by our professional investigators. I wouldn't say gleefully, but they said, no, we were told not to do an investigation. So they didn't have any problem giving him up, and they're not gonna take the heat for something that he lied about. And then we got further evidence that the law firms, Ballard Spahr, Dwayne Morris, the people who were representing Newsmax and Fox News, and Mike Lindell, President Trump, representing both sides of the fence, that they actually paid and placed ads or placed stories in factcheck.org and different fact-checking organizations to debunk us.
Yep.
They actually paid. We have the receipts. We have the billing records from the attorneys where they paid factcheck.org to debunk us, and then they pointed to that as evidence. They said, well, factcheck.org, which we paid for, they reported that this is all debunked, and that's what they used as evidence. So this is one big giant mess.
Yes. And
in the meantime, we filed 56 lawsuits across the state of Pennsylvania, across multiple counties, federal lawsuits as well, most of which were never heard. Some of them won't even put them on the docket. They won't hear them. So now we're in federal court saying, hey, we've got the proof. We know who the corrupt judges are. Know exactly who they are. 4 corrupt judges in Delaware County, 2 corrupt judges in Chester County, one corrupt judge, at least in Fayette County, 2 corrupt judges on the Commonwealth Court of Pennsylvania. We know who they are. We can point to them and say, these judges are corrupt. We can point right to them. These elected officials are corrupt. And we've named names, named the judges' names. And this is all going to play out.
Yeah. So
I think this all took a hand in the attempted assassination of Trump a couple of weeks ago, July 13th. They're at a point of desperation. Yes. They're not going to be able to, they're absolutely going to cheat in the 2024 election. We know how they're going to do it. Who's going to do it? Who, what, where, when, and how. We know exactly how they're going to do it. We filed the suits against that. We've been working with people across the country to stop the election fraud, but they're absolutely going to try. But one thing they can't sell, and one of the reasons they got rid of Biden, was first they tried to assassinate Trump on July 13th, and they were going to try to replace him at the Republican National Convention. Probably Nikki Haley, I think, was the person they were going to replace him with. And there were people there at the RNC convention that knew this. This was a lot of forethought to this, that they were going to replace Trump. When that failed, they moved Biden out, and what was obvious, it was just a coup. I mean, giving a letter that says a letter that didn't even have his signature on it, no letterhead, no nothing, said, hey, Joe Biden says he's turning over the government to the council, the cabinet. He's turning all his presidential duties over. That's a ridiculous premise. You know, so they had the power to try to assassinate Trump. They had the power to remove Biden. But now they're stuck, and you can see them saying, well, Kamala Harris is tied with President Trump in the polls, like Reuters.
Sure.
You know, it's 44 to 44. They're head to head. And that no one's buying that.
Ludicrous.
So they're really stuck. So I think what they're going to do is they're going to put Kamala Harris up. They've already floated Shapiro's name out. And everyone thinks that that he's a pariah now. He was in charge of the outer perimeter of security for President Trump when they tried to assassinate him. It's on the record now that they removed law enforcement for at least 28 minutes, local law enforcement. That order could only have come from Shapiro. And then that day at that 6:11 p.m. when the attempt was taken on President Trump's life, he was with Kamala Harris in Reading, you know, with a film crew. Shockingly,
we're getting. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we're getting a clicking on your end. Are you clicking a pen?
Oh, I did.
We hear you. Yeah, there you go. Go ahead.
And so this is a real earful for people. I don't know. Again, what we did is I've been working with these investigators to submit the lawsuits, to submit the disclosures, and build the evidentiary base to show this massive collaboration by our own government to basically have a coup.
Yeah, steal the election, no question.
I wrote an article in the Intelligencer.today, 2 articles, one in Shapiro and one on the council. And it's not just me. It's not Greg. I may be the author, but there's a lot of intellectual property there, and over 10 years worth of work by some very senior investigators. That article was put together. We name the who, what, where, when, and how. We know who's running our country. We know it. We name it in the article. You know, Inspector General for life, Michael Horowitz is at basically the top of that pyramid. Then the DOJ, the Office of Professional Responsibility, the PIN, Public Integrity Sector, and the FBI are at the tippy top of this council. And then there's a political arm, there's an emeritus arm, and then there's entertainment arm, financial arm, and we name all the names. We provide the names, we provide the cases, we provide the references and the citations. And we said, we know who's running the country. We know who tried to attempt to assassinate Trump. We know who removed Biden. We know Eric Holder is in the White House right now. If anybody wants to know who's running things, it's Holder. And while they sort this out, and we know they're going to try to steal the 2024 election again.
No question.
So I think that's why it's 39 minutes. It's an earful. It's an awful lot for people to go through. But, you know, we'll be taking clips from this. And I just learned how to do that with some of these tools to take certain clips, and we'll be putting that out. And hopefully I said this in a coherent and in a thread that could be followed. So now we have time for questions, and,
okay.
and I
well done.
bordered it all out.
Okay. So if any Facebook listeners, watchers, viewers have questions, you can post them in the comments, and we'll see them there, and you can we'll get an answer for you. I have maintained for some time that the election fraud is so incredibly obvious. It bruises my brain when people repeat the mantra that they see on the TV news. And for those who don't know, man, your TV news is completely biased, and it's full of lies and distortions and propaganda. They repeat whatever they're told like parrots. It's it's just crazy. I did put your website in the banner at the bottom of the screen, Greg, so people can go there, and I'm assuming that you'll have links to all of it, everything you've talked about. I just want to say that the key to winning in all of these battles that we're fighting battles everywhere. It's about election integrity in every state. It's about the truth about the plague, the horrible plague that was sweeping through the earth, killing people in droves. We were told that required an immediate emergency injection that was just a complete disgrace to so-called medicine and health. And we're seeing the results of that. They're spraying chemicals in our sky. We see that every day. They have planes with long white trails that start bleaching out into clouds. I mean, we are under attack. We, the people, are under attack. And the missing element is, like Greg was talking about, how, they're coming after him and slapping frivolous lawsuits on him and so forth. Well, the reason they do that and the reason they get away with it is because we, the people, don't let them know that, number one, we see you. Okay, we see what you're doing. I just heard from Greg what he's doing. I've already heard it, but that's why I wanted to bring him on today, so that I can get this out there to as many people as possible. And then we need to bury them with our demands. If Greg's the only guy calling Jim Jordan, or even just Greg and his crew are the only people calling Jim Jordan, there should be 1 million pissed off Americans calling Jim Jordan saying, "What the hell do you think you're doing? And you better get your ass on this. And I mean now, or your head will be on the chopping block," because that's what they respond to: massive public pressure. You'll like these, Greg. I created these very detailed graphics to illustrate my various points. This is the one that I created for we, the people. This is the proper process that we have here in America. We, the people, have elected servants. The elected servants work for us. We don't work for them. They're not our lords. They don't order us around. We literally order them around. That's how it's supposed to be. And the pressure paradigm is what I call this next one. The pressure paradigm is when these people are in office, who do they hear from? Where do they get information? And how do they know what we, the people, want? They know if we tell them. There's two groups of people that are going to be pressuring them. There's we, the people, are going to be telling them what we want. And then all the people in corporate America that are making money and off of us, off of we, the people, the giant ticks. That's what they are. They're parasites. They're giant ticks. They're sucking the lifeblood out of America. And they're happy to call our elected servants and demand what they want. They have ample time to do it. They have lobbyists who are paid to do that full time. And the only way we take back our nation is if every single one of us does our due diligence, our duty. If you want to live here in a constitutional republic and you want freedom and you want a vote, then you need to support this process, because it is going away. And our founding fathers are spinning in their graves with disgust at what they see, and especially at the cowardice of all of you who will not get up off the couch and do something. And whenever I say this, here's what I get told: it won't matter. They don't care. It'll never work. Okay, these are the naysayers, and there's always one in every crowd, and he's the happiest to talk. The other people aren't really necessarily going to jump up and say anything, but the one guy that's going to shoot you down has a moment of his busy day to tell you what an idiot you are and how it'll never work, and that is demonstrably false. You were going to say, Greg?
I do, and speaking with that, I'm hoping Jon Marietta is still listening. But one of the things that we really had a hard time finding is a few good men and women.
Amen.
A few honest people and godly people who would fight back. Jon Marietta is one of those. He truly, he is built for public service. He has the empathy, the sympathy, and the intellectual skills and the integrity.
Thank you.
To listen to people and act. And, people... it's funny that JD, they pick Vance as who also goes by the Hillbilly, but I really think the Hillbilly is something that being a hillbilly is going to be something we're going to need a whole lot of in these coming months, because while it's used denigratively, by maybe people in DC, hillbillies are, keep it simple. If I can't say what the problem is in one sentence, I don't know what the problem is. And if I can't give a simple solution in a sentence, if life was, for me, I wish all life was hillbilly simple. And I think that brings us on to God. And there's only one thing that saved Donald Trump on January 13th, and that was the hand of God. There were at least 2 shooters. There may be 3 or 4, but there was a minimum of 2 shooters. I think that's become clear. While the council that I described and the insider threat, the government insider threat that coordinated that assassination, they want us not to believe our eyes. They want us not to believe our ears. They want us not to believe common sense. And they say, oh, common sense is a conspiracy theory.
Yes.
Baloney. No, it's not. This is where the hillbilly comes in, and where Jon Marietta and all the people that are supportive in the western part of the state, in Washington County, Butler County, where the rally was, and Fayette County and Greene County. These people in the western part of the state who, good common sense. They're not, I don't think they're polluted as much as the urban areas. Certainly Washington, D.C., the people there don't understand them. But keeping things hillbilly simple and looking at what happened on that day, it's pretty simple. Somebody screwed up really badly, which was the Secret Service and the Department of Homeland Security. Someone really screwed up in the outer ring. Who was responsible for all the outer security? Josh Shapiro. Josh Shapiro is conveniently ready to do a public statement with Kamala Harris, and in the RNC, there were a lot of Confederates there, and I say that in a bad way. I'm going to say miscreants, bad actors who are ready to act, on the assassination of President Trump and take advantage of that, and they would have stolen our government again. So we've got another day to breathe here. We've got 3 months, a little less than 3 months. And people need to start listening to people like Jon Marietta, listening to you. And I think one thing I've seen over the last 4 years is God's got his hand on the wheel. He had to have moved those bullets from hitting President Trump. We certainly see his work, and we see his primarily. I see his work in blinding our enemies, and basically foiling. Their own plans are foiling them, and it's becoming more and more obvious every day to godly people, common sense people who have any, strong-minded people, that our government has been stolen, and we have an illegitimate government, and it's going to be a real struggle over the coming months to recover our republic. We have a plan.
True.
I hate to bring it down to a donation, but we haven't been supported by anybody. The RNC, people in Trump's own camp who are just loyal to him, and actually I think had a part in plotting his assassination.
Probably, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so we've been on our own. Same way Dana's been on his own. I've been on my own. Jon Marietta has been largely on his own. Chester County, the candidates there, we have been on our own while most citizens have been asleep. So the first things they can do, and I don't want to hear any excuse, you take a look at all the dead bodies on Utah Beach from, when
Thank you.
in D-Day, you look at all those 17 and 18-year-old kids who they had the time on the beach and they're sleeping there eternally. I don't want to hear any RNC crap that avoid the line and, let's mail your ballot in. You need to show up. We need a 90% turnout. 90% turnout on election day. There's no amount of fraud that they can commit, okay, if 90% people of voters show up. And I'm talking more. I don't care if they're Democrat, Republican, 90% of voters show up, okay, then we'll recover and keep our republic. If they don't, then woe be unto you.
Amen.
And at the end of this, this trial, I look at this as a Christian as probably the best time in history, other than when Jesus walked the earth, to be alive. This is a time of great choices. This is a time when people, where their souls are going to go after they leave this earthly plane, and the choices that they make and choices that they don't make are going to really matter. And they're going to be feeling pain if they don't make the right choices. And if they do make the right choices, I think it will make a difference this time. 9 out of 10 have to vote on election day.
Agree. Everyone votes every time. That's what I say to people. And what really makes me angry, it burns my bacon, when I hear people say, I don't vote. It's all a scam. It's all a sham. It doesn't matter. Well, if you don't vote, you just admitted defeat. What is it you think is going to happen if you don't vote? What productive value does your not voting? Well, I don't participate in their system, blah, blah, blah. So you're abandoning the system. The system's supposed to keep us free, preserve our rights, and preserve our constitutional republic. You're going to just abandon it. But you're going to now enjoy the benefits of living in America. So you're going to, stay in your apartment and watch TV and eat some Haagen-Dazs because you live in America instead of in communist China or North Korea, where your freedom would be highly questionable, but you're not going to support the very process that gives you that. And you're defiling every single veteran that suffered and bled and died to preserve those rights. And you disgust me. You make me very angry. And I used to be angry, Greg. I'm off the hook now. I'm so angry at the injustice and the crap that I see. And I did want to touch base very briefly because we were talking about the Trump assassination, which wasn't the focus of our cast, but it's big in the news right now, obviously. And there's a lot of people arguing about it. Was it faked? Is he in on it? And all these things. And it gets back to something you said earlier about common sense. When you start thinking at these high levels, you've got the action reaction. This person's plotting to do this and that, and they're really secretly opposition and blah, blah, blah. You got to boil it down and start asking just some really, really basic questions before you get all complicated about it. What do I see? What do I know personally? What makes sense? What questions, when I'm asking these questions, there's certain obvious answers, and you've just got to start thinking, using your brain that God gave you to discern fact from fiction and truth from lies. And we the people were told that a young man walked onto a secure location where a former president was speaking, an area saturated with law enforcement and Secret Service. This guy walks on with a rifle, gets to a building, somehow gets to the top, and there's been some controversy about how exactly he got to the top of the building. I'm told that there are pictures of a ladder propped up against the back of the building. Well, that's probably true, because if
I've seen them. The ladder was there. If
everyone's ever tried to climb a building with a flipping rifle, okay, good luck. Navy SEALs don't do that, man. I mean, so there's a ladder there. He climbs the ladder in full view. Everyone's seeing him and commenting, hey, look, there's a guy with a rifle climbing up onto a building. That building, for some reason, had no Secret Service personnel stationed on there. And then they dared to tell us it was because of the slope. The 5-degree slope was really treacherous. And God forbid we put these people in harm's way by asking them to climb up onto a 5-degree slope. Then minutes go by as all the people that are pointing to him and talking to law enforcement, and nothing is done. And then he gets off shots at the president. And, again, there's a lot of people that say it was all faked. And, he put his hand up to his ear like this and he had a blood pack in his hand or whatever. No. I don't believe that. I don't believe it. It's not what my eyes are telling me.
No, I have a lot of you have to listen. This is where common sense comes into play. And I've had, because of I speak on these shows and speak on the subject quite often. I've had a lot of people who are insiders, whistleblowers, people who were there, sitting, only feet away, had multiple reports. So the best, I think that what's going to come out eventually is, I'm going to call this boy, this 20-year-old, because he was a boy, troubled.
Yes.
There is actually hard evidence that the FBI was in touch with him a month before, and that there were people associated with our government in contact with him from Massachusetts, and that he was contacted multiple times by these people. So imagine this a little bit better. I did PSD work, personal security details, and also security for nuclear weapons, amongst other things, is in my past, in my job resume. So imagine a kid who is troubled and he, gets contacted by the FBI or, some secret agents and says, hey, we have a special mission for you, and we want you to try to infiltrate this Trump rally, this upcoming Trump rally. And a couple of hours before the rally, we want you to fly a drone and see if they see you flying the drone. And of course, no one sees it. And then what we want you to do is walk around with a rangefinder and make it really obvious. Walk right in front of the Secret Service and walk in front of it. See if the security spots you. And then we set up a ladder. We want you to go up this ladder, with a rifle and still see if they see you. And then he was lying on the roof. And if anyone hasn't seen the pictures of where the Secret Service and the FBI, there was a window looking out it was looking right down on the kid. They had a room full of Secret Service and FBI agents looking right down on this kid. Secret Service was taken and told to stand down, that they used DHS personnel. That one woman you see with the can't holster her gun. She's famous at this point. I feel bad for the poor girl.
Yeah.
Her previous job was she was a security guard at an immigration center.
Wow.
Never trained a Secret Service. She had no business being there, which was obvious.
Yeah. How do you make it onto the president's personal detail? What? So, Secret Service agents train for years and hope and pray they get that detail.
So then if you look at where Trump was, and if just take my nose as where President Trump was, and my I think this is my right cheek. Okay, whatever cheek this is, you look at that as the water tower. The roof, and then you go out here to where my ear is, and that was the water tower. So people have seen the pictures of someone on the water tower. Mm-hmm. So at first, the FBI and the Secret Service dismissed the reports of a black SUV. Oh, clicking again. Black SUV and the zip line. I think people heard, a lot of people heard about the reports that there was something going on at the water tower. But when Congressman Josh Hawley went up there, right after the shooting, the entire area was taped off as a crime scene of the water tower, and they wouldn't let him near it. Pennsylvania state troopers at the direction of the FBI wouldn't let him near it. We also have video of the FBI, a guy in an FBI jacket, pressure washing, not just hosing down, but pressure washing the crime scene on the roof after the event. So what do you do in pressure washing? You say, and you heard Merrick Garland or Ray today, we don't have any forensics. We don't know if it was a fragment. We don't have any shells. So please explain, FBI Director Ray, why there's an FBI agent that says FBI in the back of his coat, hosing down with a pressure washer, hosing down the roof, almost, within an hour or two after the event. Explain why there's crime tape around this water tower. Now, you're in Maine. I'm a rifle, NRA and familiar with firearms, obviously. Yeah, give big thumbs up. So you don't have to be an acoustic expert like that. There was a guy who did a great job. I don't know, it was the acoustic expert, but you don't have to be an expert to hear what I'm a 5.56 223. It's a rifle round, center fire rifle, AR-15, M16. So you hear kapow, kapow, kapow. So the first sound, because the mic was right in front of Trump, the first sound is a supersonic crack of the bullet itself, followed by the kapow is the rifle, 0.22 seconds later is the report from the exit of the bullet from the rifle. That's the speed of sound. So the bullet's going faster than the speed of sound. You hear that crack, and then you hear the report of the rifle, the blast from the rifle, 0.22 seconds afterwards in the first three shots. Kapow, kapow, kapow. It's got a very distinctive sound. It's a 22, 223, 5.56. Most people would recognize it. And then you hear 5 shots go outbound. He's going to bring. I know he's got a visual for us here. Then you hear 5 shots from I'm going to say 30 caliber, 30-06, probably 300 Win Mag, 300 blackout. Then you hear 5 pops, pop, 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 pop. I think those were outbound, not inbound, and I think they were shooting at that water tower. And whoever that's a 223.
5.56.
Yep, that's a 5.56. It's a 22 cal. Hold that up again. So they keep saying it's a 22 caliber. Most people think of a 22 bullet, which is about that big, the end of the bullet, when in fact it was a 223 firing supersonic. So what I heard, and what most people have seen now is that was a gunfight. That wasn't one shooter firing 8 rounds off. That was multiple shooters, including the third shot you hear at the 15-second delay is the Secret Service, is the sharpshooter. We don't know where he came from, FBI, Secret Service, who the heck knows. But the long delayed shot was the sharpshooter killing the 20-year-old boy. And he was a boy, 20 years old, I know is an adult, but when you look at the kid, and it's not, in this case, he was a boy.
Yes.
And shot over the left eye and killed. They said they found a detonator on him to explosives that were in his car.
Right.
And I just look at this thing, and the fact is using the common sense, the kid was obviously a patsy. Everybody saw him.
Yes.
Everybody saw him. And he's walking around, and he couldn't have made himself more obvious.
Right.
And so I think someone was in his ear saying, oh, okay, now walk around. And they got him up on that roof, and they said, okay, told the professional shooter in the water tower, now, boom, and then the gun battle began. And then they took the guy out in the water tower. I think he was taken out. I don't think he made it off that water tower. I saw people, had videos of something going on in that water tower from a distance. But that was a crime scene they wouldn't let anybody near. So I think there were 30 caliber rounds that went by Trump's head. I think the people that got hit in the audience are incongruent with the trajectory and the round that was being fired allegedly by the 20-year-old. So in history, we were on Roger Stone's show, and he wrote a book on, who killed Kennedy. And in history, if you look at the history of assassinations of, U.S. Presidents and then, dignitaries around the world, there's always 2 shooters or 3. It's not just, the idea of a lone wolf somehow foiling the entire government is complete bullshit.
Yep.
And the contempt that the Secret Service Director Cheadle had for Congress, the contempt that Christopher Wray had for Congress, they should have been put in cuffs right there.
Absolutely.
By the master at arms, put in cuffs and put in jail for contempt. And they should have been brought to trial before a federal judge.
And they would be if the entire weight of America came down on them. They would be if everyone in America picked up their damn phones. And you can, America. They work for us. And you can find their telephone numbers, their email addresses very easily. Take your phone, call them, be nice, but direct. My name is, and I'm calling you from this city, in this county, in this state. And I'm calling you about my thoughts and feelings about this issue. And you can say, I demand that these people be arrested and held accountable. And we're watching you, and we're not believing the lies and distortions of the mainstream media anymore. We're on to you. We see you. We smell you. And by God, there will be justice, and we will establish transparency. And we, the people, are in charge, not you rich pricks at the upper echelons of power. Your power is fleeting, and you will be held accountable. And I've told people many times on my podcast, and I mean it, I speak to all of you right now, all you low-level demons out there who are working for the enemy. Okay, you better start turning in people, because you are going to be held accountable. And when you are held accountable, it's going to be mighty unpleasant. And there's a few seats on a bus, and it's called turning state's evidence. And you better take one while they're available, because they're going to fill up fast, and your house of cards is going down. I'm telling you right now, we're on to you. We see you. We know what you're doing. And there are people like Greg out there. Greg's not the only one.
No.
Okay. Thank God. Okay. And nothing against Greg, but he's one man and trying to do an impossible task with limited resources and facing the full weight of the counterattack. And, we need to support him. We need to support everyone that does this. So I am going to be composing a few documents that I am going to be sending regarding what Greg is doing. And I, as you know, don't mince words. So I'm going to have some pretty potent things to say to my elected servants about this. And they will explain to me why they are doing the things that they're doing, or admit that they're being nefarious. And either way, I will absolutely publish everything I find on my website, on my YouTube channel, on Facebook, until they shut me down, which they most assuredly will, because they do not like the truth. But if we support each other, I mean, that's what we're meant to do. This is our structure. These political servants, they work for us. We, the people, tell them what to do. These rich idiots don't have any power. We just let them get away with it. If we all get up off the couch, we all get involved, we all make our voices heard, the corruption gets fixed. And then when you go and face God, you won't have to hide like a scared little bitch, excuse my French, because you sat and didn't do anything, or you hid in your living room and hoped that other people would take care of the problem. Shame
But
on all of you for doing that.
People change. This is my mom speaking. And people change two ways. I used to think people mainly change through pain. But my mother reminded me not long ago that people also change through love, and that there's love too. And if you look at the grace of God, you can look at it two ways. I think previously I looked at it, Dana, I was I was an angry citizen, and I think I looked at it more of in a condemning way. But I've really come to see that this is a time of choices, and I do strongly believe God's in control, and He's giving us choices. And what our job is, and my job as a former naval officer and as someone who's I don't know what you call me at this point, election integrity or exposing the corruption of the government, is to give other people courage. Federal service is the heart of America. Nobody joins the FBI or the Secret Service to be a bad guy. They join to serve. There are very, very good people who serve our government, serve in the military, serve throughout our government, who protect us day and night, and they've been minimized and attacked as well, because we have over 200 whistleblowers, 200 federal whistleblowers, and most of them at the higher end of the government, who were destroyed. Several of them were killed, murdered. But we have over 200 federal whistleblowers who have previously been destroyed. And of course, they did that on purpose because they didn't want anyone else to talk.
Right.
But I feel like, if I speak up, and Leah Hoops can speak up, and Colonel Tim Schindler spoke up on Roger Stone's show, and we have other people around the country that are good citizens, circumspect. I mean, we're not crazy people, and we're standing up and saying, hey, believe your eyes, believe your ears. We have the evidence. We know who these people are. Have the courage, just a little bit, to stand up and be counted. Amen. I think that's love. I think that's God's grace, where He says, hey, I'm giving you a choice where all will be good. The eighth commandment is do not use false witness against your neighbor, depending on which Bible you're reading. Right. And basically it says tell the truth. And I think that the truth will set you free. The truth will set our republic free. And we're counting on these public officials. We're counting on our law enforcement officers. We're counting on the Pennsylvania state troopers that were there. I mean, I know quite a few state troopers, and these are good men and women. And it's got to kill them to try to decide. They're deciding about the futures of their families. They're deciding about whether they, break the chain of command. And I think, coming from the military, I think the thin blue line is a bunch of crap. I've always said to police officers, look, at the military, when we get a bad egg, we hoist them. Otherwise, it will take the whole unit down. Right. So I don't know why police officers are so intent in protecting people, even when they know they're bad eggs.
Good point.
So I would say to the police, hey, law enforcement, federal employees, I don't care what your job is in the federal government. Speak up. Say something. Call me.
Agree.
And we'll call Dana, and we'll
Amen.
We'll work with you to get you help.
Yep.
And we're going to get to the bottom of this together. And I do think God has the wheel, and our country is going to survive.
Fantastic. Wow, Greg.
Gave a little bit. I wanted to end the show with a little bit of love, Dana.
I love it. It's fantastic. I have nothing more to add to that. So thank you so much. It's been really enlightening for me, even though you and I have talked before. A lot of what you said just now I hadn't heard before. So it's always good to catch up. You're always welcome to join me on a cast anytime. I know Jon loves having you on his. I've been helping Jon out with getting his show up and running and getting out on some more platforms. And you're right, the truth is getting out there slowly. So Greg, thank you for joining me. I appreciate you. God bless you and keep you safe. Keep me in the loop about what's going on with you, and I will certainly promote you heavily. I put Greg's website up there. There's a couple of websites that Greg gave me, and I put them both up in the comments so you can see that. Also, Greg, I don't know if you saw this guy here, says he knows you. Looks like he does. Thank you for watching, John Lucas, and yeah, Greg's a good guy. I'm really pleased that I met him. I really feel like God is uniting us, and I'm not a Christian, but I'm a man of God, and I believe in doing the right thing and telling the truth. You know, the 10 Commandments, it may not be my Bible, but 10 Commandments make sense to me. You know, don't kill people, don't cheat on your wife, don't bear false witness against your neighbor. You know, I mean, this to me seems like every person should be willing to agree to these rules, because it doesn't hurt anybody except the guy that wants to do scurrilous things. So there are a lot of resources out there for those who do not know. Greg is one of many people who's working on this issue. There's this guy here, Dr. Douglas Frank, if I can find him. And he's been doing this for a while as well. And he's actually, I may have lost the website here. I'll put it in the comments once I figure it out. You can Google him. I don't like to say Google, because Google is completely unreliable. But yeah, the folks out there working on this are always attacked. They're always, quote unquote, debunked. Always debunked. And it starts out with silly things. They say things like, Dr. Frank's ridiculous conspiracy theories have been disproven. No, there wasn't widespread fraud in the election, you silly person. You know, they're demeaning and insulting, dismissive. They lack foundation. They lack fact. They lack evidence. They don't address any of the actual issues that these people are bringing up. They just tell you you're being stupid and dismiss you. And that's how you know that they're lying to you, because they don't have any facts or evidence to back them up. Look for the truth. The truth is the sword of God. So thanks everyone for joining me. I'm sorry that we couldn't get Jon on here in a better kind of environment, but he's at the fair. He's doing his business. We'll be back with Jon maybe next week. Hopefully Wednesday we'll be doing another cast with Jon on his show, which is the Hillbilly Jon radio show. You can look him up, and I'm sure we'll be talking to Greg again. And Greg, thank you again. I really appreciate your time, and I hope everyone in America watches you, and I hope everyone in America goes to your website. And you can go to patriot.online is Greg's website, parallelelection.com, and that's referencing Greg's book about the election fraud, and Intelligencer Today, and that's one I actually just saw, so I didn't see that before, so I'll go check that out. And if you have a couple of bucks you can throw Greg's way, please do that. You know, if you're wealthy and want to give him a lot of money, that's fine, but if you're not, as long as you're putting food on the table, I'm sure Greg will accept $5 or $10 or whatever you can comfortably give him to help his cause, and get the word out, and call your elected servants. And I'll be doing a podcast on that very soon. You know, call these people up, tell them what you want. You have every right to, and in fact, you have a duty to. It's your obligation to. That's how we fix America. And if we stand together as constitutional Americans, we can take back this nation. We can hold all these people accountable. We can restore our constitutional republic to full capacity, and make sure that we, the people, are in charge, and that the wealthy overlords pay the price for their shenanigans. So I am Dana, the Angry Citizen, and I appreciate all of you, my viewers, appreciate all of Hillbilly Jon's viewers that joined us tonight, and God bless us all in this dark time. See you all very soon. Take care.